Hello again, Aubrey. Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back to you and welcome back to all of you listening. Part 2 of this very fun series. If you
Yes.
missed the part 1, scroll back, listen to it. We had some fun sharing some band 4 answers, which are more difficult for us to come up with than we expected.
I know. This is so
So
great,
hard.
guys. Yeah, definitely. If you missed the last episode, scroll up IELTS Energy 1461. Is this a 4 for fluency and vocabulary? So, just to recap what we're doing in this two-parter, Aubrey, what are we doing?
Yeah, so we answered a really good question. Sanjay had scored 4 on the IELTS exam on speaking and was like, how did this happen? How can I get a 6? So we are going over the scoring system, specifically like what would cause you to score a 4 so that you can avoid it. Make sure that doesn't happen on test day. And for each part of the scoring system, part 1, we covered vocabulary and fluency and coherence. Today, we're covering grammar and pronunciation. You'll hear 2 answers, one that would score a 4 and one that would score 7 or higher, maybe band 9. So you can really see the difference.
This is going to be hard to get
Yeah, this
four
would be harder.
answers. Ooh, listen up today, guys. It's going to be fun. All right, so let's dive in here. What is a 4 for grammar on speaking?
Yeah. So, first of all, can produce basic sentence forms, and some short utterances are error free. So, simple sentences here, right? Some of them perfect verbs. We don't have a lot of errors, but they're all pretty basic and simple sentences. Subordinate clauses are rare, and overall, turns are short, structures are repetitive, and errors are frequent. So, for a 4, you can make a lot of grammar errors, and you're using very simple sentences with very few interesting clauses.
Yeah, a 4 student doesn't even try to have like complex sentences, right? Like it says, subordinate clauses are rare. So that's really the difference between a 4 and a 5. It's like a 5 student will still make a lot of mistakes, but they will try to have subordinate clauses or dependent clauses. They'll probably mess it up, but they're gonna try. A 4 student doesn't even go there, just all simple sentences.
Right. Okay. So, Jessica, are you up for providing a 4 here? It's going to
Yeah.
mostly
Yep.
be like very simple sentences. I believe in you. It's tricky to do.
No, I'm glad because I don't wanna do the 4 for pronunciation.
Okay. I can do that.
So I'm glad it ended up this way. Okay.
All right. Here's your question. This is a part 3 question. Why are poor people in many cases more generous than rich people?
Poor people have no money. Poor people my friend is poor. My friend gives food me.
Perfect. It's difficult because if you
So
add
hard.
more detail, then suddenly, ooh, we have an interesting
I know.
clause that's gonna score at least 5 or higher. But yeah, for this 4, it has to be very simple, basic sentences, some grammar errors, right? Because you guys can make a lot of grammar errors and still score a 6. So
Totally.
it's really, really actually kind of difficult to score a 4.
It really is, especially for our listeners, guys. We know you won't score a 4 for grammar. But nonetheless, this is still really useful because for every scoring category, this is what the examiner is listening for: the number of errors, right? And the amount of different sentence structures. Okay. So let's get into what a higher scoring answer would be for grammar. Aubrey, why are poor people in many cases more generous than rich people?
I immediately think of Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol. Just watched a bunch of versions of this at Christmas time, and he was a miser, a stingy old guy who didn't care about anyone. He had all the money in the world, but never gave it away. Whereas Bob Cratchit in the story is poor, but super generous with his children, with his neighbors, with his love. And it makes sense. The more we have, the more we might have a tendency to become less generous.
Okay, awesome. I'm just scribbling furiously. Okay, so first thing, the definition clause of the noun, right? Providing an adjective clause there, like you said, is a miser, a stingy old guy. So the way that would look written would be a miser, comma, a stingy old guy. So that's adding more description to that noun, right? That is a higher level grammar structure. And then you heard Aubrey say whereas. So that, of course, is a dependent clause. Whereas Bob Cratchit, that can't stand on its own. No, that's part of a contrasting complex structure. And then you had that wonderfully complex structure towards the end. We might have a tendency to, with all of these verbs in there, I could see a student really messing that up if they try to express something like that. So, because of this variety of structures, of course, that would be a 9, and because there were 0 grammar mistakes.
Nice. This is interesting, the grammar score. Often you hear us say, don't focus so much on the grammar score. If you are taking in English and learning it holistically, your grammar is improving as you learn verb tenses, as you learn to make longer, more complex sentences. So rather than spending hours memorizing verb tenses and allow it as you improve these other scores, help allow that to sort of boost your grammar and rather than really focus on just this score. Okay,
Okay.
let's dive into the pronunciation score,
We
Jessica.
both got really excited about
Yes,
pronunciation at the same time.
right.
All right. So, Aubrey, what is a 4 for pronunciation?
All right, so it says uses some acceptable phonological features, but the range is limited. So you're using some accurate word stress, phonemes, but your range is limited. You're just kind of trying to stay in this safe zone where you're not challenging yourself.
Exactly, exactly. It's just about being very monotone, right? Like it says, produces some acceptable chunking. So, what is chunking, Aubrey?
Yeah, this is anything that is together, right? So there are a lot of parts of speech in English where we have linking. We have a lot of things that are happening where native speakers will change sounds, eliminate sounds, and the examiner is listening for how natively you're able to do that. Are you chunking your sounds together? Are words being linked, or is everything very choppy and separated?
Yeah, exactly. So chunking is all about stress timing, right? Is the rhythm of what you're saying correct? And the intonation and stress, of course, is a big deal. So you've heard us talk about not being monotone. It says attempts to use intonation and stress, but control is limited. So just will be very monotone. And then what about the individual sounds, Aubrey?
Yeah, they are frequently mispronounced individual sounds or phonemes, which causes a lack of clarity. So you can have phonemes from your first language that are more difficult for you to pronounce in English, as long as this isn't keeping the examiner from understanding the words. But when it becomes extreme enough that it is making your answers or your words unclear, this is when you really need to work on drilling sounds so that you're able to enunciate each word clearly and the examiner understands what you're saying.
Exactly, because again, part of a 4 is that the examiner will not be able to understand everything you say, okay? All right, so, for the sake of being culturally sensitive, guys, we're not going to focus on the phoneme mispronunciation because we don't want to come off as making fun of anybody's first language accent. So what we're gonna focus on is the other phonological features, the chunking being unacceptable and the intonation and stress being absent. So, okay, Aubrey, you're doing the 4. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. Do you think that riches can have a bad effect on a person?
This depends very much on the person. I think that some people have a tendency to be generous regardless of how much wealth they have, but others are extremely selfish with their money, whether they are poor or rich.
Okay, that wasn't a 4. That was at least a 6. Like, it wasn't that bad. It's just it's
That's
so
good for us to talk about. I'm trying to
yeah,
use a monotone, and then I'm trying to,
it's
like,
the
have
chunking.
my word stress be strange, where I'm, like, saying several words together kind of chunked and then a strange pause, but it does kind of end up being a 6 still because I think my tone I'm just so used to having my tone be varied, it's hard to be that flat.
Well, and the pauses that were there were pauses between normal chunks. Like, your chunking
Right.
was good. It was just there were pauses between the chunks. It's so
Let's give another
hard.
one, Jessica. Let's see if you can
I don't know
do
if I can. I was just
before.
gonna say why it's difficult because
It's
we
tough.
cannot not have the natural rhythm because we're native speakers.
Right.
Okay, let's jump forward and just
Okay.
say, guys, none of you are gonna get a 4 for pronunciation. Let's go for the band 9. Aubrey, I'm gonna let you give this model answer as well because I need you to shine, baby.
Nice.
Shine like a
Since
star
I couldn't do a
you
4,
are.
let's see if I can do a 9.
Well, of course you can't do a 4, it's too hard. Okay. Aubrey, do you think that riches can have a bad effect on a person?
I think it really depends. I think of, like, Taylor Swift, who's a multi-billionaire now, and she seems to be really generous with her money. On the Eras Tour, she was giving millions of dollars in bonuses to her crew, but then on the other hand, we definitely hear about people who become extremely wealthy and start treating everyone terribly. They cut out family and friends. I can't think of a specific person, but that's sort of the general knowledge of someone who becomes uber rich, that they start mistreating people. So I sort of wonder how much truth there is to that stereotype.
Okay, band 9 for using Taylor Swift as, your main
As an
support
example.
there, that was awesome. But guys, if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that we absolutely love encouraging you to have expressive pronunciation, because that is the easiest score to improve on your speaking test, right?
Yeah, and the hardest to do a band 4. I couldn't even do it when
There
I
you
tried.
go.
But one thing that's interesting to Sanjay, who asked the question that inspired this series, if you're scoring a 4 on your speaking, you might still be getting at least a 6 for pronunciation.
Totally.
And then these other scores are really being tanked because it is easier to score
For sure.
low in these other scores. So it's so vital that you really understand what each band is and what the examiner's listening for, because it is an average of all of these scores. So if you can improve your vocabulary and your fluency scores, that's going to pull up all of these scores.
100%, 100%. So guys, let's leave you with that takeaway today from this two-part series, really, that pronunciation is the easiest score to improve. So go ahead in your search bar or go to our YouTube channel and just search IELTS Energy Pronunciation. We have so many amazing lessons that are free to listen and or watch. So search for that, guys, and improve that score.
Awesome. So glad you guys joined us for this two-part series, and we will see you next week.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Bye, Aubrey.
Bye.